Hi everyone, this is Lori with Dockery's Dream Dolls. Now that we've disassembled the doll, we're going to be cleaning up the vinyl parts, the two legs, the two arms, and the head. To do this part, what I have is I have a small container with Windex in it with Q-tips. I have a container with lukewarm water and the Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. And I also have a container with lukewarm water and a cut up kitchen sponge. I also have a dry clean rag, and also for getting in between fingers and toes and other hard to reach spots, I'll be using this brush. Some people prefer to use toothbrushes. Whatever works for you is fine, or whatever it is that you have available is fine. So we're going to go ahead and start with the limbs because they are the least damaged. This poor little baby's head has a lot of issues, so we'll save that for last. We're going to go ahead and put you down here so you can see what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this leg, and I'm going to start by grabbing my Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. I'm going to dip that in water. And then I'm just going to take it and start cleaning up the vinyl. So far things are looking good. None of the spots are remaining. Everything's coming off so far, which is great news. Uh-oh. There's something going on here. Oh, now it's gone. This part gets a little gross because you'll see some of the dirty water dripping off the doll. And even when they don't look like they're that bad, you'd be surprised with the amount of dirt that you get off these poor babies. I'm going to dip my magic eraser here. Get in between those toes. I'm using this to scrub and flick dirt, residue, dust, what have you. Then I'm going to take a small portion of my clean dry rag here and just use it to kind of rinse it. They were definitely dirtier than I expected. Poor baby. Okay. Now you want to be careful when you're cleaning your doll, especially if these parts right here are open, because if you get water on the inside of the doll, you're going to want to be really careful to make sure that you take the time needed to ensure that the inside vinyl parts are completely dry before you assemble the doll, because otherwise mold and mildew will grow in there and you'll find that your sweet precious little baby doll will make you sick, and then it will also cause stains and tends to smell too. Alright, so we really lucked out with this one. All the marks came off. There was a few I was worried about. I couldn't tell if they'd come out or if it was a stain. Actually, it's good as new. I'll set that aside. And wow, what a difference. Here's the clean one that we just cleaned, and here's the dirty one that we have not cleaned yet. It's quite a difference. I hope the camera's picking it up. Okay, so I'm going to go back to wetting my Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and just scrub away. And of course, if you see anything that's not immediately coming off, just attack it a little extra with that sponge, like you see these spots here. Oh yay, they came right off. That is fantastic. Oh, we got a little something going on here. It looks like one of the marks you get on dolls from when they hit walls. Let's see, I can just get that off. Just be careful so you don't scratch the vinyl. And it came off, yay! And you'll notice that the Mr. Clean Magic erasers kind of start dissolving as you use them. That's perfectly normal. Kind of the nature of the beast here. And just don't forget to get those spots there. And we're going to give her a little rinse. Wash those little toes real good. So I'm using the slightly damp part of the washcloth to kind of rinse off what the magic eraser scrubbed off of the doll. And then I'm going to use the dry end to, of course, dry the doll. Ew, I really should have brought some water in here with me because my throat is getting dry. Sorry about that. Got it. Now, especially when you are cleaning up reborn dolls, it's really important that before you start attacking it with any of these cleaning methods, that you test a inconspicuous part of the doll first for color fastness. Usually what I recommend is going for the back of the neck, because depending on the technique and how advanced the painter is, as you know, even with things like the magic eraser or even a damp cloth, may remove some of the paint, and you definitely want to know that before you start going over the whole doll. One of the things you risk with dolls, period, even some machine-made dolls can have that problem. Okay, so we're going to start washing our hands. Got a stubborn little spot there. And it's coming out. Happy day. Go get those chubby little fingers. They really are cute. And we're going to get in between here. She's got quite a bit of nooks and crannies going on in that area. Make sure to scrub them all out. And again, we're going to dip our cloth, just one little corner of it, so we can give her a nice little rinse. Alright, and now she's ready for a nice little dry. Looking good. Good as new. Alright, last one here. Seeing some stubborn spots on this one. Hopefully we'll be able to get them. Scrub vigorously. You know, when I find poor little lost souls at Goodwill that tug at my heartstrings and want to come here to the Dolly Hospital and be fixed, I like to do my homework on the dolls before I start fixing them up, you know, because, you know, if they have an interesting enough history, um, or important enough history, or desirability and collectability, you know, you like with this doll, I'm keeping the original body because Pat Seacrest actually has quite an interesting history. And when I was looking this one up, I was hoping to be able to find out for sure which kit she is. I think she's the Tabitha kit, but I'm not sure. She sure does have a cute face. But I was looking up the history of the Apple Valley dolls, and it turns out that they are connected to the My Twin dolls, which got discontinued in January of 2016. And they actually have a pretty cute history. And I think that it was really a good idea to begin with, and I'm sad that it wasn't more successful because with the My Twin dolls, you could order out of a catalog a doll and choose the eye color, the hair color, the skin color, if freckles, glasses, and basically have a doll made for about $100 that looked like the little girl that was going to be receiving the doll. It's pretty interesting. I think the history of a lot of dolls are pretty interesting. You know, when I went onto the Apple Valley Doll website to see what kits are currently available on the website, and wigs and, you know, all the other accessories that come with the dolls and clothing, etc., so on and so forth, I was really kind of disappointed because they didn't have a lot available, and I'm concerned that that means that, like the My Twin doll, it won't be long before the entire line is discontinued. And I think that's sad because, you know, whether you're a reborn artist or you like reborn art and you're not very good at it but would like to still enjoy making your own doll, you know, or even for little girls and, you know, doll making as an art form, period, I think that it's a really, really awesome idea. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our head. Now, the issues that we're going to address here, and heads are normally the hardest regardless because the eyes need to be cleaned. Inside the ears, it looks like she's got a beach. Um, we've got the glue that's stuck to the head, and we also have her lovely little stains. Now, it looks like I'm lucky here, and it looks like this glue is water soluble. You may not be as lucky with yours, and you'll want to start making some decisions. Like for her, the wig is going to come here. So if this was a glue that wasn't going to come off easily and I was at higher risk of damaging the doll, I may just want to get off as much of it as I can and leave the rest, um, and just cover it up with the new wig. With her, even if that was the case, I'd still want to remove this part here because this glue goes beyond where her wig is going to be, and I definitely don't want that. Oh, sorry about the sirens. Oh, medics. I hope whoever they're going for is okay. Um, so I'd want to remove this regardless. And you just want to be careful with glue removal because You know, if you use caustic chemicals, you're going to ruin the vinyl. If you scrape and scratch too much, you're going to ruin the vinyl. Most glues, even E6000, if you soak the doll for a very long time, the glue will slowly but surely come off. But you want to make sure that if you do that, especially on open-eye doll kits, because there's no way to really put the head in water where you would need it without getting water in through the eye sockets. And you want to be careful of this part too, because you want to avoid getting water inside the doll. If you run into a situation where you have to, just be really, really sure. I mean, even if you have to leave the doll on a drying rack for a month to make sure that there's no water inside this doll before you put it together, please do it. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and start with what will hopefully remove this glue. So I've got my little cut up kitchen sponge that I have soaked in lukewarm water with a mild dish detergent. And I think what I'm going to do first is just wet it, because that in of itself is going to loosen up quite a bit, I'm sure. So I'm just going to go through and wet all the parts that have glue. Oh yeah, it's coming right off. And I'm going to take the scrubbing part. Now, what I'm doing here is I am not scrubbing the glue off. I'm kind of using the scrubbing part to grab the glue and pull it off. And I'm not applying pressure. I'm just moving the glue off of the vinyl. Be very, very careful not to scrub, not to muscle this process. Just take your time. And use that part to kind of move off what I've already gotten off. And I'm getting really lucky with this because the glue really is coming off pretty easily. I want to say, if I were to guess what glue they used here, I would say Mod Podge. Coming off very nicely. That makes me happy. And with the removing of the glue from the doll's head, if you find that this method, or soaking it in water, does not work, there are actually a lot of YouTube videos discussing removal of the glue from a doll's head. This is a very, very common and very talked about issue. So just start using techniques until you find the one that works for your doll. Because you can guess what kind of glue that they used, but you don't really know unless you did it. Ooh, cruddy. Okay, so now I'm actually going to use an unscented baby wipe, and I'm just going to use that to remove the residue and kind of get this chunky stuff off. That worked really well. I definitely could not have asked for anything better. Look at that. All of the glue residue, for a few stubborn chunks, don't want to come off the wet vinyl, but it's all off. So I've got a nice surface. And you wouldn't want to use, a glue that comes off easy. You would want to take the time to remove it. Because what would happen if I glued the wig on to that glue? Did you see how easy that came off? That would be in between the vinyl and the new glue in the wig. So the wig is not going to be secure. You're not going to get a nice, good quality job. So it's definitely worth removing it if you can. Okay, so now I'm going to get these glue chunks off. Okay, I just didn't want that coming back on my vinyl. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the good old magic eraser. And we are just going to hit up her face real good with that. And it looks like we've got some sticky adhesive we're going to have to deal with in that eyeball from the eyelashes, which is fine. It's to be expected. No big deal. Typical kid with those dirty ears. Okay. Now I've got her nice and wet, I'm going to go ahead and attack her ears with some Q-tips. And again with this one. And see about removing some of that residue in her eyeballs. It's like sticker type material. Alright. I'm going to scrub some of these stains and see if I have any removal success. I don't think I'm going to, but it's always worth a try. Even if you're only getting it lightened and you don't get all of it off. And it does look like where the velvet dress was, the magic eraser is lightening it. But of course it's not taking it off. But we will address this issue later on in the videos, because this is going to be the issue that takes the most time to resolve. So that'll be the last thing that we do. So I'm going to go ahead and get my clean cloth wet. Okay. And get behind those ears. Check our nose, it's good. Nice and clean. Okay, now that I'm looking at her, she's pretty clean, but like I said, we've got some of that adhesive that's pretty clumped up in her eye, so I want to go ahead and address that. And I'm going to take a toothpick and very carefully go. Okay, what I'm doing right now is loosening it up, and we'll go back at it here in a couple minutes and see about removing it. And you want to be careful, because some acrylic eyes are going to have issues with the toothpick and may scratch. So pay attention. If that's happening, you need to stop. And that doesn't seem to be an issue with this eyeball. Okay. Now I'm going to take some more Q-tips and the Windex. And I use this for both glass and acrylic eyes. And thus far, I've not had a problem using Windex on either. And I like the results on both. And the Windex, I find, also tends to help remove glue from the eyeballs. But again, anytime you're using a product, or a cleaning technique on a doll, you know, take your time, test it out, because unfortunately, repairing a doll is always risky. You know, even if you do everything perfectly right, there may be something with the doll that just isn't going to make it work, and it may be damaged. And that's just kind of comes with the territory. And that's one of the good things about dolls like this. So, you know, if you want to practice, finding a doll that looks like it has adorable potential at Goodwill and practicing, you know, is a great thing, because you can be a little bit more confident, because ultimately at the end of the day, you know, if something happens to this doll, I'm no worse off than I was to begin with. She's already ruined. If I can reverse that, that is absolutely fantastic. But if something happens, she's no worse off really than she was when I got her. She's already ruined. Ooh, glue bugger. Got that one. Put some more Windex in her eye here. When you're working with the glue, especially when you're going to be reapplying eyelashes, you don't have to worry about getting every single last bit of the glue out. You want the visible, I guess you could say, glue boogers out, but anything that's in the area where the new eyelashes are going to be, you don't have to worry about too much, unless you think that it might interfere with the adhesive that you use on the new glue, on the new eyelashes. Okay, she's looking good. I do have to say, having fingernails definitely helps too, because then I can take it and push it up. There's a couple of spots of the glue that I'm just not going to be able to remove without risking damaging the eye, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it. And dry them out. And when you're cleaning adhesive off the eyes, you'll have to go back and forth with the Windex and drying them out, because a lot of times the adhesive will leave a residue on the eye. So it'll take a couple of wipes, scrubs, and dry offs before you get it all. And you just want to make sure that when the eye is dry, you don't see a film over the eye. You want them nice and clear and sparkly. Polish them eyes. Still got the residue going on here. And dry. Make sure when you're dealing with the filmy residue over the eye that after you go over it with the Windex, when you go and use the dry part of the Q-tip, make sure you're not rubbing around, because you're not trying to rub it in, you need to wipe it off. So you need to make sure to use an action that is wiping that residue off the eye and not just stirring it around. There we go. I think we are just about good with these lovely eyes. And most of the time when people are using the fake eyelashes that you glue on instead of rooting the eyelashes onto the eyeballs, they all come with this, what's supposed to be a temporary adhesive. And a lot of people that assemble dolls don't take that sticker-like adhesive off of the eyelashes. And man, getting the final residue off the eyeball can really be a stinker. But again, it's one of those things where, take your time and keep going until you get it all. It's worth it. After all, the eyes are the windows to the soul. That stuff is stubborn. Okay. I think that's good. Now I've got some of that sticker-like residue on the doll's face, of course. So I'm going to go back over that with the magic eraser. Does me no better to have that stuff on her face than it does in her eyeballs. Go up her nose here a little. There we go. Sometimes you gotta reshape these Q-tips so they'll fit where you need them to go. Yeah, custom nose picker here. Doesn't get any better than that. All right. Some nooks and crannies here in the face. Get them all. Some more of that adhesive. Kind of like baby boogers. All right, I think that's good. All right, so here she is. Let's see if I can figure out this camera here. Which way yet? There we go. There she is. So she's all spiffed up and clean for now. We cleaned the limbs. We've got the adhesive removed from her head, the adhesive removed from her eyelashes here, and the residue cleared out. Now the next thing we're going to be dealing with is the dreaded stain. And again, the one that goes around her neck is from wearing a black velvet dress. Do not dress your dolls in dark colored clothing until they have been washed. I actually recommend soaking dark clothing, especially things like jeans, in vinegar and water for a day and then washing them, and that should get all of the bleed out. But whenever you put dark clothing on a doll, you risk this happening, and this is very, very, very common. And then, of course, we've got the doodle, and even if you have an adult doll or a collector's doll, these darn kids, they get a hold of them, and this happens very often, and unfortunately, it is most often going to happen on these cute little faces. So in our next video, we are going to address how to take care of that. So that's all for now, and have a great day. Bye.